They say there are places that do not tolerate accidental visitors. Places that feel as if they've been waiting for you specifically. Deep in the forest, where even the wind moves softer than anywhere else, lies a small lake. At first glance, nothing unusual. Round, quiet, its dark water reflecting the sky like an old, forgotten mirror. If you step closer, you can feel a slight tremor under your feet, as if something beneath the roots has its own, deeper heartbeat. The people from nearby villages never go near it. They don't even name the lake, because whatever has a name, can be called. And calling this lake means signing your own sentence. Because the water doesn't show your reflection. It shows the moment you die. Not the date, not the place. But a single, vivid moment. Like a scene torn from a film that hasn't begun, yet somehow reveals its ending. They say the first one to witness this was a woodsman named Merrick. A simple man, searching for his lost axe. He leaned down to drink, and suddenly saw himself, pale, jacket torn, lying between jagged rocks in a dark ravine. A heartbeat later, the water went still again. Merrick ran. But weeks later, he fell to his death in that exact ravine. And then people understood, whatever the lake shows, cannot be avoided. Over time, others came. Some out of fear. Some out of foolish curiosity. And a few came at night, believing the water speaks more honestly in darkness. They say that when you stare into the lake, time itself stops. The wind freezes mid-air, fog ceases to drift, trees lean in, listening to your breath. And then the water begins to show you what you wish you weren't seeing. One day a young man named Ostap arrived. He had heard the stories, but never believed them. He thought people invented their fears. That no water could dictate a person's fate. He came only to prove everyone wrong. Ostap approached the lake with confidence. Almost smiling. "All right then, show me," he said, leaning over the water. It was dark. Deep. Silent. Then, the surface shivered. He saw himself. But not as he was now. His face was covered in blood. His hands were shaking. And behind him stood a shadow, tall, motionless, blurred at the edges. He tried to run in the vision, but something grabbed him by the shoulder. And the water went calm again. As if nothing had happened. Ostap stumbled back. It was the first time in years the lake had shown not a place, but a being. Unknown. Impossible. Not human. And the worst part, the shadow stood very close to him in the vision. Almost at the tree line where he had walked in. Ostap told no one what he saw. But something inside him cracked. He became obsessed with proving destiny wrong. He changed his routines, avoided old paths, watched every corner. But the more he tried to escape what he had seen, the closer it came. At night he heard soft breathing outside his window. He felt cold air on the back of his neck whenever he was alone. And sometimes, in the corner of his eye, he noticed a shadow, the same blurred, enormous shape. Ostap didn't know that the lake never lies. And the harder you try to avoid your ending, the faster it reaches you. And that's where the real story begins. After that day, Ostap lived in constant fear. He avoided the forest. He never left home at sunset. He slept with the lights on, lights that sometimes flickered for no reason, as if something passed in front of them, casting its shadow. But no matter what precautions he took, the shadow kept closing in. One evening, while walking home, the road suddenly darkened. As if a cloud drifted directly above him. A cold shiver crawled down his spine. And then he saw it, a figure between the trees. Blurry. Exactly like in the lake's vision. Ostap ran. He didn't breathe. He didn't look back. He just ran, praying to survive until morning. But no matter how fast he moved, the shadow stayed behind him. Not chasing. Not leaping. Just walking, and every step echoed inside his skull. People in the village began to notice he wasn't himself anymore. His eyes were red, his lips dry, his hands trembling. He almost never left home. And when he did, he constantly looked over his shoulder. Because he knew, death was no longer in the future. It was somewhere behind him, following the outline of his footsteps. One night he jolted awake, so suddenly he didn't even grab a coat. Something had woken him. A quiet sound. Like a heavy breath beside his bed. He burst outside and ran toward the fields, then into the forest. He believed he could hide there. But as the cold mist wrapped around his legs, he realized. He was running right back to where everything had begun. To the lake. The forest seemed to guide him. Paths twisted away, branches grabbed at his clothes. But he didn't stop. Somewhere inside he believed that if he reached the lake, he would find an answer. Or a way to change what he had seen. When he reached the clearing, the moon hung directly above the water. The lake was still. Smooth as glass. Waiting. Ostap stepped closer and whispered. "Tell me, can this be changed?" The water said nothing. It simply trembled, exactly as it had the first time. And showed the same moment. The same shadow. The same hand grabbing his shoulder. Ostap staggered back. Then another step. Then he turned and ran. And that's when something touched his shoulder. Not violently. Softly. Almost gently. His body froze. The ground beneath him felt wet, too soft, as if breathing. And the lake shifted from black to deep red. As if reflecting a sky that did not exist. They say his scream reached the village. They say that after that night, the water turned even darker. And everyone who approaches the shore now feels, as if someone is standing behind them. Breathing. Quietly. Almost tenderly. Waiting for you to look down into the depths. Because the lake doesn't just show you death. It shows you the one who comes for you. And the most terrifying part, no one knows. Whether this being stands in your future. Or is already standing right behind you. The end? Or just the beginning? That's for you to decide.